Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a long time since I've made a video, but it's 2014, it's a new year, and I'm back making some videos to help the community improve when playing StarCraft 2. And that's what you're here watching, an episode of Improve with Apollo, a brand new episode that I making right now. And when you watch it, made a couple of hours ago. Whew, I don't even know how to begin anymore. I've kind of forgotten how to make YouTube videos. But anyway, I'm here to help you, or help a single individual today, which will then hopefully help the rest of you that are watching this video. This guy goes by the name of Charlie, and I'm here to have a look at his email to kind of find out what's going wrong with him when he's playing StarCraft 2, what's going wrong with his games. So let's have a look at his email, which you guys can send in emails as well if you hope to be featured on the show. So, hello Apollo, great to see you back making videos and streaming again. I'm hoping that you'll be able to help me with my Terran versus Protoss. That's what I'm here to do. Charlie, age 16 from the UK, and is a Gold League Terran. So let's now have a look at his problem. I've been playing StarCraft for about 6 to 8 months now, and I've reached Gold League in the past 2 seasons. So that's a pretty good start, to be honest, and you are a newcomer to StarCraft 2, so welcome. I'm at the top of Gold League Division. I'm beginning to match against Platinum players every now and then. My TVT and TVZ are not so bad, with a 51 win ratio versus Terran, 57 versus Zerg. However, versus Protoss, it's down at below 50%. Okay, so obviously struggling like a lot of other Terran players out there, so I hope I can help you out here, Charlie. During games versus Protoss, I tend to execute some reasonable nice drop play, pulling the Protoss out of position and denying the third. However, too many times the Protoss gotten fed up and end up moving forward and killing you. Basically, yeah, that happens to a lot of people. Is it more down to a problem with my engagements, positioning that I could take with my bad micro, or is it a problem more down to the sloppy macro back at home while dropping at their base? I'd really appreciate your input on this one. Okay, Charlie, I'm gonna have a look at what's going wrong for you. I think what happens a lot of the time when you're at a Gold League level or below, or even a little bit higher, is that sometimes you may think a little bit too complicated for the actual reason for your losses. So what I want to do now is work on your replay, work on your game, and I've kind of already thought about what to do with you today. What I want to focus on is following and tightening up a solid build order, because I think that was one of your biggest mistakes. And even though you identified in the replay that maybe it was your drops, maybe it was your macro, or maybe something else, that this was one of the biggest problems in your play, I don't think it was. And this is what hopefully I can hope to show you and teach you today. So what you ended up doing here is, very normal. You open up with a barracks and gas on 12 supply each for the Reaper opening, which is completely normal to do. And your SCV scout is fine as well. You can or cannot SCV scout at this time. Some players don't like to, some players do. It's totally up to your preference. That's fine. So far you're nailing this Reaper expansion build. There was one thing that started to confuse me a little bit, and that was first of all this supply depot. This supply depot coming in now kind of told me that you didn't want to grab too fast of an expansion here. So I was already starting to ask questions myself on what you were planning to do. And then it became quite obvious in the next couple of seconds when you decided to throw down a second barracks. See, this confused me a lot, Charlie, because I wasn't too sure what your reasoning for this was. My first initial thought was maybe you were going to build quite a few Reapers and be quite aggressive. But then again, I wasn't exactly sure that that's how you were thinking. So I just said, all right, whatever, I'll just find out what he's going to do. And then a Marine was built. So the reason why this is, I would like to say, a bit of a mistake on your behalf is what is your reason? Every move you make in StarCraft, there needs to be a logical reason behind it. Adding on a second barracks here would usually indicate being aggressive, because you are slowing down a potential expansion, which is why this build, as I saw it and how we all saw it, looked like a Reaper expansion play. But you've thrown down a second barracks, so that terminology is out the window. So with the second barracks here, you kind of need to be aggressive with it. Otherwise, what you'll end up finding happening to you quite often in your games is your opponent will take quite a fast nexus, or a much faster than your command center, and you'll just fall behind in the economy straight away. And that's what your Reapers ended up finding out here. The nexus is already on its way. If we have a look in the complete vision, it's coming up to the halfway point now, and we, over at our base, haven't even begun our command center. So what you should be aiming to do if you want to play from a 2 barracks position, is look to do damage to slow that economy down so that you can actually get back into the game at a reasonable rate with your own economy. But you then expand. So the reason for the second barracks doesn't make a lot of sense for me. So this is, furthering on from this point is when I started to think about, I think I know your problem, Charlie, already, is that I don't think you know a solid build order, or at least haven't copied one from the pros, or copied them from a pro streamer, or just copied them from an online tutorial or anything along those lines. And that became more evident as the game went on. For example, a third barracks came in, and then a second gas. You have 350 gas already in the bank, so I was wondering where you were going to spend this gas. There's no techlabs, there's no reactors coming down, and things just they just seem to be a little bit slow. And then from this point, I think you ended up throwing down double engineering bay, and then from here I was like, all right, I don't think you know how to properly open up against Terran versus Protoss, and what will end up happening is your games and your results will become relatively random. And when I say that, is that some games you'll win because your opponent doesn't really know how to play either, and some games you'll lose because your opponent has a little bit more game sense and game knowledge than you do. So the thing that I really think you need to focus on and to improve on if you want to increase past Gold League and above is knowing a build order, executing the build order well, and then kind of weighing it up against someone who also knows that build order pretty well himself. So I think from this position, what I would like to do with you, Charlie, is I'm going to leave this game, and I want to show you a build order that you can copy and follow yourself, the Reaper Expand build order. It's really simple to do, and I've already made a replay to do it. So we can follow this. And I think if you're able to follow this down nicely and tightly and kind of make sure you know what to do, you'd find yourself in a pretty good position the more games you play. So I just want to go into this straight away, and I want to follow what I made just now for you earlier, as they say on what was the TV program back in the UK, on Blue Peter or something. And this is what I made before, and this is the replay that I made before for you. Or maybe it was on cooking shows or whatever it is, on any multiple TV show. You've seen it before. So what I want to go through here is exactly your build, or your start of the build for your strategy, and make sure that it's done properly. So 12 barracks, 12 refinery. And what I do have for you, which I'll tease, I suppose, a little bit, and I'll show you again after, is that I do have, hold on one second. I do have this written out already, as you can see. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. I do have this written out, so don't worry. And all right, let's jump back into this. So 12 barracks and 12 refinery is obviously for the Reaper like you did before. And then if you're able to follow what I do, and the best way to follow this is almost take it into single player for a little bit, or into a custom game, because this is what I did. Is once I saw your replay and I thought about the best way for you to improve, I went into a custom game and just played out a Terran versus Protoss for the first 10-15 minutes of the game to kind of build this replay for you and set up the build order for you to copy. So already the difference is I didn't send an SCV scout. You can if you want. As mentioned before, that's up to you. But my command center is much faster here. As you can see, it's already coming down without the second barracks, which means my economy is going to be much stronger and I don't need to be aggressive in the early stages. I threw down a reactor immediately here, starting to spend that gas that we had mining from quite a while ago, because it was built at the same time as the barracks. From this position, I want to be adding on the second supply depot a little bit after. And it was before, after the command center, but before anything else here, which means that I get the command center down quite a bit faster, but also don't get supply blocked, really, because I'm able to squeeze in SCVs before the supply depot finishes. From this position, as soon as the supply depot finishes, you want to be starting to add on your extra barracks. So barracks number 2 can be built straight from the supply depot. One thing you need to keep into consideration is a pretty fast bunker too. So I throw a bunker down into my build to make sure that I don't get hit by any form of attack that Protoss could give me. And the bunker is there with these first 2 Marines that you can just jump in straight away. I've thrown down a third barracks to go up to 3 barracks, which is pretty normal in every Terran versus Protoss, to go 3 barracks before factory and engineering bay, which you kind of did in your own way. But what ends up happening if you don't spend, or if you don't use your gas properly, like I have now. I've already got up to 200 gas, and you could look at it and be like, whoa, dude, gas. but I have plans to use it, and you'll see it come down to almost 0 in the next couple of seconds because of these double barracks, which we'll copy now. So for the example's sake of the replay, I just went in, scouted, saw nothing was really going on, and then just left, which is, you know, pretty much what your Reaper would be doing anyway, because you shouldn't really care too much about what your opponent's doing, but more so about nailing this build down. So to spend that gas, I threw down a tech lab, and we'll throw down a second one, which you can get stim and combat shields and even marauders all at the same time to really get rid of that gas. One thing to note is I haven't been supply blocked once yet, so that's something you should keep in consideration. And it almost, if you've watched any of my older videos, just dedicate an SEV to building a supply depot, and always building a supply depot. This guy I always use as building a supply depot for this replay. So as you can see, just he goes back, and I'm like, no, I got to show Charlie how to build supply depots, and then just go back and build it, and just keep that guy building. So I've got now the tech lab, combat shields, and marauders being made, and my money's really, really low, and I'm not getting supply blocked. The next point is bringing in the factory and the engineering bay. So I've added on the factory here at the 6-minute 55 mark, and then I'm obviously wanting to go up to the engineering bay. Which I'll add on in a couple of seconds time once I have enough money when I'm not building units or SCVs. So I have this guy continuing to build supply depots, but the more the game goes on, the more supply depots you'll need. So I ended up building another one, I think, maybe on the natural or something in the moment, yeah. You just make sure you have maybe, for the first couple of minutes, 1 supply depot, and then for the next couple of moments past the 5-6 minute mark, you have 2 supply depots, and this obviously counts for overlords and pylons too. So from this position, all we're doing is building a bunch of units. Engineering base added on, we're going to go straight to the starport, we're going to get +1 attack, and just all the things that you need in a Terran versus Protoss matchup. And what you will be able to do as well is I will send you the replay for this. I'll send you, obviously you're going to watch the video, I'll send you the notes in email, and the notes will be in the YouTube description, and you just want to follow this out very, very closely. And if you were able to follow it out closely, even the third gas, which we skipped over, you're going to find yourself with a much better build setup and find yourself with a higher supply count at a faster time in the game. And then one of the most standard Terran versus Protoss things to have happen for you is to have the +1 attack come out around the 10-minute mark with your medivacs. So if we just look at 10 minutes here, when we move out at the 10-minute mark here, I want to note this down. At 10 minutes, we are moving out with Marines, Marauders, 2 medivacs, and just about to have +1 attack. And we'll definitely have it by the time we move over there. That is the 10-minute mark, and I'll come back to your replay in a minute. The other point I want to note is, I want to fast forward from this position because there are other things I've added on, such as the 4th and 5th barracks, which again, as I mentioned, are going to be in the replay and in the notes that are going to be present for you to copy. So you got to a total of 5 barracks is the overall here, and then into a third command center, which can be placed down, and you have just a massive army here, and you're almost ready to go. So from this position, I want to almost load back into your game, but one thing before we do that, just to compare once again, is I want to note as we approach the 15-minute mark, how high our supply can really climb just by adding on the barracks at the right time, pumping out the right units, adding on extra barracks. You're able to fly ahead in terms of supply, and what I ended up doing in this game is maxing out at the 15-minute mark pretty much, and that's pretty fast. That's pretty fast indeed, and this is absolutely something you're capable of doing as long as you put the practice in. And I'm just able to try again. This is against the AI, so this is definitely a scenario where it's possible. Obviously, when the game happens and you're playing against another opponent, things become a lot more difficult. There's interactions and reactions that are going to be needed and forced out. But this is a very simple guide to follow. So I want to just remind you once again, at the 10-minute mark is when the medivacs were moving out with that army, and at the 50 mark, we were fully maxed out. What I want to do now is just come back to your replay a little bit and show the differences between that speed and what ended up in your game here. So if I jump in and just fast forward, I want to jump to the 10-minute mark pretty much immediately, where obviously as soon as I can get there, and just look at, does Charlie have at 10 minutes, 2 medivacs moving out with a decent sized army with +1 attack about to complete? And the answer is going to be no, but I want to see how far away it actually is from being there. Because that's ideally your goal and where you want to be, right? You want to kind of be closing in on that. And you could almost think about it like, you know, you've played racing car games in the past, and you have you have the ghost trials, I think it's called, where you race yourself, but it's a ghost, and you try to beat that time over and over and over. Think of it like that with the replay I've given you, where you're able to kind of have my replay as the ghost trial and benchmarks to hit, and then try to catch up and try to get there as fast as possible. So we're closing into the 10-minute mark here, and this is where I was moving at. Granted, you've got 1-1, which is more than I had. You had +1 attack done faster and also +1 armor. But you're missing a crucial point, is that the factory is very, very late. With the factory being so late here in this game, your medivacs are delayed, which are going to enable you to drop, to heal, and more importantly, I think for you, is you're really, really slow from getting up to Vikings. And Vikings going to be needed against the Colossus, which your opponent is, at this time, always usually going to have at least one. He's got one out and he already has a second. So you're weak against... Well, I mean, you can't do any damage because he's got a Colossus. And you're actually weak against a lot of Colossus attacks that could come to you because your factory and starport's so late. So that's something you want to be looking at. I want to fast forward now to the 15-minute mark. Granted that you are going to be losing a couple of units here and there. I just want to see your supply count. And I was at 200. And that was like a perfect ghost game. And then at the 15-minute mark, which we're closing in at, I just want to see what supply you'll count at. Okay, so at 15, 126. So 70 supply difference. Granted, you've lost 1,000 resource worth of units. But there's the difference between both of these games. So what I want to do now is actually bring in the build order. And I want to show you. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So here's the build order, which I used earlier on in my replay. You got the 10 barracks, the 10 supply depot, 12 barracks, scouting if you want to, into 12 gas for the Reaper at 50 gas. Then you got the 17 command center, 17 reactor, and then you can just follow this as your own guide on how to play. And then you've got the factory timing, the engineering bay timing, your 4th and 5th barracks timing, and here are the stats that we talked about. I was at 100 supply at just about the 10-minute mark, 10:20 with +1 attack and 2 medivacs ready to go, and was at 200 supply at 15 minutes. What you should be looking to take away from this video, take away from this replay, is that you ideally would like to be trying to get close to these numbers. Set yourself some goals. Go into the single player and try to get to 100 supply with +1 attack and 2 medivacs at the 13-minute mark, and then try to shave a minute off every time and try to get to the second goal, then the third goal, and then maybe if you practice hard enough, you can get to 10 minutes 30, which is roughly where I was. And through practice, which I definitely recommend going into the single player and trying to nail out this build order and then bring it into your multiplayer games, I'm pretty sure you're going to have some success. Well, definitely success. If you're able to get to the 11, 12-minute mark in your games right now with the build I set up for you, then you're going to be getting much more victories, and that win percentage, which is below 50 right now, is definitely going to look to climb. So Charlie, I hope that you've enjoyed this video that I've made for you. Definitely be sure to check out your email if you haven't already, which will consist of the replay, and also we'll have these notes in front of you, which you can use to obviously copy and improve your games. I wish you the best of luck, Charlie. For anybody else that's watching this video, if you want to be a part of Improve with Apollo, I'm just now getting back into the rhythm of things and getting back into the rhythm of making these videos. This is my first one in a long time. Please make sure to send in your applications, and there's always details below in the YouTube video, to @ImproveWithApollo. Wait, that was wrong. improvewithapollo@gmail.com. Details are below, and be sure to send in your applications just like Charlie did, and hopefully if you're lucky enough to get selected, you'll be able to feature on the show. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and tell your friends about it, and hopefully some of you out there can learn, hopefully more than some, can learn from my videos. Until next time, I am signing off. See you later.